Hi, welcome to my review of Scream 2. This is a continuation for my movie review series of the franchise, leading all the way up to the release of Scream 6 next week. So this takes place a few years after the events of the original. Sydney has now moved on from Woodsboro, she's at college, and she's reunited with some old friends when this copycat killer disguised as Ghostface starts a killing spree. So given the box office success that the original Scream was, there was absolutely no doubt that they were going to bring out a sequel. The fact that it went into production instantly and came out a year later probably had some people pretty skeptical about how good it was actually going to turn out. And, you know, watching this again, it's definitely an inferior film to the first, and it has a few issues, hasn't dated so well. But despite that, it's still a pretty damn entertaining film. Oh, and I forgot to mention in my last review, this will definitely be spoiler filled. You know, I guess for a movie that's 25 years old, I guess that's probably expected. But just in case you haven't seen it before and you really don't want it spoiled, I will be talking about pretty much everything in the film here. Again, just like I said with the first, the character dynamics is really what makes a lot of the Scream films. Just having this group of characters back together interacting, it's just so much fun to go along with. And I think they do make a lot of improvements to these characters even over the first in ways. You know, like the character of Dewey and Gale, their relationship here I really can't help but get invested in. The fact that, you know, Gale is so ruthless with how she is with her career as a journalist. She will let any of her friendships and relationships break down. She doesn't care about awkward moments or anything, just purely because of her ambitions. And her one soft spot is for Dewey. And you really do get invested in that here because in that first film, Dewey is played so much for the laughs, it doesn't give you enough time to get fully invested in their relationship. Whereas here, they kind of build him up a lot more as a character, give him a lot more screen time. And he does have a bit more of a serious side without losing, you know, his funny moments that the first one had. And I really like that about him here. You know, obviously helped by the fact that in real life, you know, the two of them were married. So they obviously had great chemistry, but just the way they bring their stories together in this film, I just think it works really well. And I definitely, their relationship I like the most in this film, I think, out of any of the Scream films in the franchise. Randy is just the absolute standout in this movie. The fact that he's in this film school now, so he's with other kind of like-minded people that are happy to listen to him, you know, go on about his referencing of film. I just absolutely love the banter he has between his classmates and him, you know, talking about the rules of film sequels and whatnot.
The way I see it, someone's out to make a sequel, so it's our job to observe the rules of the sequel. Number 1, the body count is always bigger. Number 2, death scenes are always much more elaborate.
It's just so much fun. He's so infectious when he's on the screen, and you just love to be around him. I was so sad when he dies in the middle of this film. I kind of admire them for taking out a main character like that in such a surprising way. But yeah, it does feel like the film really misses something after that because he dies so early on into the movie. It's just, yeah, the film does take a bit of a hit because he's kind of like the comedic element as well and brings a lot of it together, a lot of the charm of Scream 2. So it was really sad to see him killed off because he was just fantastic in this. There's one particularly brilliant sequence in this film, which is the one main thing I remembered about this going in, which was the whole scene where Sydney and her sorority friend are in the detective car and they've got the killer in the front, and when they end up crashing, and it's got that kind of gated fence bit in between the back seat and the front seat, and they both have to kind of climb out over the killer to get out the window, and that scene is just unbelievably tense. Like, I even remembered how this scene played out, and the fact that he doesn't actually wake up, but still just watching it, oh, it makes you sweat. You can't help but feel tense watching a scene like this when she's so close to him and doesn't want to move the mask just in case of waking him, even though she knows she really wants to find out and just end this whole thing by knowing who it is. It's a really effective sequence and probably the most memorable scene from this film. And of course, I just absolutely love Sydney in this film. I think they kind of show that she has like quite a lot of growth as a character. The fact that this time around she doesn't play the victim at all. You know, she absolutely just tackles a lot of these things head on. A lot of lines that come out of her in intense situations that you just really don't expect, that you just love her for. And you know, you kind of really do feel for her a lot in this story. Like when she first meets with Dewey again and they're out in the cafe, and when she first realizes that there's someone killing again under this guise of Ghostface, and he tells her about, you know, the person who's doing this you most likely already know and they're already in your life. So she basically always has to keep everyone at arm's distance all the time. And you can definitely feel that in her character when you watch her, that, you know, she has that desire to kind of make connections, and she's got this really kind of new caring boyfriend who she really wants to trust, but can't help but just have that little bit of worry in the back of her mind, just given what's happened before to her. Like, no one, you couldn't not be paranoid about this, especially when you know that the person doing this, that these killings are somewhat personal to her. But I just love the way her character deals with this in the story. And, you know, she's just a great character to follow. She's a very complex person, and just the way she deals with everything in this film, you just can't help but love her for it. Another thing I'd forgotten about Scream 2 was the inclusion of Cotton Weary. You know, he was the guy obviously that was framed for the death of Sydney's mum, or her murder, sorry, in the first film. And by this time now, you know, he's a free man, and despite the fact that he's innocent, obviously he didn't kill her, but he's still just a bit of a prick. And basically he just wants his time on TV to use the story to get himself recognition, get some fame, get some money out of it. And yeah, he's just absolutely hilarious in this film. So he's a very quirky character, and just lots of random hilarious lines he comes out with that just really got a good laugh out of me. You know, the scenes in the end in the showdown where Sydney and Billy's mum are just having that, you know, that they've got knives to each other's throats, and Cotton suddenly turns out of nowhere and he's like, what the fuck's going on? And he's telling them about how he's had such a bad day, and it's just hilarious. I just absolutely loved having him in this, and the way Liev Schreiber plays it, yeah, just this very quirky, hilarious character. So really enjoyed having him here, and yeah, I'd completely forgotten about it. So really enjoyed that here. So getting into one of the things that I'm not as keen on with Scream 2 is the opening. And, you know, whilst I still think it is entertaining, it's just nowhere near as good as the opening to the original. I think my main problem is with it that it's just not scary. It doesn't have that intensity, it doesn't have the scares. And to me, it just all feels a little bit contrived. So, you know, you've got this cinema setting, you've got Jada Pinkett and Omar Epps, and their characters are, you know, they're coming to watch this film, which is based on it's like a depiction of the events that happened in Woodsboro called Stab. So it's like a film made on the events that happened there, and they're in this extremely lively cinema, and everyone there's dressed up in their Halloween costumes, all in the Ghostface outfits, and the whole thing is just very, very over the top. And I feel like the way it plays out, just the way the first kills happen, so obviously the killer's here, and the way he takes out Omar Epps' character, and the way it all plays out from there, it feels more like a stage play, like something in the theatre. And, you know, as I said, it is entertaining, but yeah, it does just feel a little bit contrived to me, kind of relying on conveniences where people are. It doesn't feel like it's playing out naturally. It feels like it's been written for the film, if that makes sense. So yeah, I did enjoy it. I think it's okay. I just think when you consider how powerful and intense the opening of the first film is, the start of this just really doesn't live up to it at all. The other thing for me is the final reveals, and that whole final act basically, again, doesn't work anywhere near as well as the original. I think the reveals are fine and they kind of make sense. You know, you have obviously Billy Loomis's mother and Mickey, who's their kind of class film mate, and you know, the reasons they give for why they're doing that I think are fine. You know, obviously it's all a bit over the top, the fact that, you know, despite the fact her son was a serial killer, she just wants to get revenge on Sydney for killing him. You know, like how does she reason with herself that that's her fault? Like, you know, my son has gone around butchering people in your classes and has tried to kill you multiple times, and finally in self-defense you've killed him, and now I've dedicated my life to killing you. Like, obviously she's crazy, but the way it kind of plays out, it just feels a little bit more silly to me, I guess. And then when you have the reveal of Mickey as well, like watching this back, I did remember who the killers were, and you can definitely see the little details they had in there to show you those reveals, which I think are quite cool. But yeah, it's just so comical. It really gets ramped up to 11 here, where in the film they're kind of these more calm, collected characters, and then the second they have these reveals, it's like they go off the chain, just going absolutely insane and shouting and throwing, like it just it all gets pretty bad. It's still quite fun. As I said, I don't hate the reveals. I didn't guess them the first time that I watched this, but the first one, again, the kind of the motives and the reasoning behind it, it just stuck with me a lot more. I find their motives a little bit more scary as well, a little bit more convincing. And something about the reveals didn't come out of nowhere to me, whereas here, it's like, you know, the reporter lady ends up being his mum, and then she has the crazy eyes suddenly, and it's like, okay, fine. You know, it was going to have to do something a little bit different to throw us off, so you kind of knew it wasn't going to be the boyfriend again. And the reveals are fine, but yeah, just when you compare it to the original, I do think it does all get a little bit over the top, and it does lose me a little bit in that final act. So yeah, overall, I really had a lot of fun seeing Scream 2. It's not as tight of a film as the first one is, for sure. I do think there's some scenes in it that maybe are a little bit unnecessary, or, you know, aren't quite as polished as the first film. I definitely think there's some moments like that, and because the final act's a little bit weaker, you kind of end up going off on a little bit more of a disappointing note. But I think the thing is, watching this again last night, I noticed with the first 2 acts, I was having so much fun with this. And, you know, if it had perfected that final act, I think it would nearly be up there with the first. Yeah, still a really solid Scream sequel, though. It's a lot of fun, loads of great character dynamics, a lot of fun kills, and yeah, just a very, very entertaining time. So I'm going to give this film a 3.5 out of 5 rating. So thank you very much for watching my review of Scream 2. As I've said before, this is a review series, so I'm getting ready for the new film next week. I'm going to have the next sequel out in a few days to give my thoughts on that. And please do let me know in the comments as well your feelings about Scream 2. So please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed my video, and I'll see you next time.